And that concludes proceedings on the bill. And so we come to motion number 2, relating to the appointment of the Acting Parliamentary Commissioner for Administration and Acting Health Service Commissioner for England. Minister to move the motion.
Moving it. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Burghart. The question is as on the order paper. Will Wragg?
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. At this juncture of an evening, making myself even more unpopular with colleagues, I intended to speak very briefly to this motion. I was prepared to at least allow the Minister 5 minutes for an exposition as to why we're in this situation, and I would happily take the remaining 85, but I may be more charitable for colleagues. The motion before us is a seemingly innocuous one, as it appears on the order paper, but behind it there is a short story to be told, Madam Deputy Speaker, one of which that very few are aware. The saga, if I might call it that, Madam Deputy Speaker, of the appointment of a new Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman for England is one that began in the summer of last year, and an appointments panel was assembled, of which I was a member, the second and permanent Secretary at the Department of Health and Social Care, an independent member, and the former President of the International Ombudsman Institute were also a member, and the panel was ably chaired by Philippa Helm, a late of this parish. She was a senior clerk, many of us will remember. We went about our business diligently, sifting through, I think, an initial 52 applications for the role, long listing and short listing, and then we took on a day's interviewing, at which we interviewed on that day 4 candidates. We judged 3 of them to be appointable, and we put forward a name to the Prime Minister as our recommended name. And as the Cabinet Manual makes very clear, and I'm sure we're all aware of this, but I'll repeat it for refresh our memory perhaps, of paragraph 5.400, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Administration, known as the Parliamentary Ombudsman, is an officer of the House of Commons appointed by the Crown and is independent of the Government. In recognition of the Ombudsman's relationship with Parliament, the House now leads on the recruitment to the role. Unfortunately, Madam Deputy Speaker, the name put forward, and I'm not going to say the name of the person so as to protect their privacy at this juncture, that name has seemingly been declined by number 10, in that, given they were notified of it in January and it's now March, some time has elapsed where surely it would have been possible to confer that seal of approval. Now clearly things are more topical, given the report from the Ombudsman last week on women's state pension age, and maybe that might sharpen the focus. But I wonder, in winding up the debate, if we can call it that, if my very able, honourable friend, Minister for the Constitution, in whose hands the Constitution of this country is always safe and sound, I wonder if he might be able to elaborate what has happened. Why is there this need to appoint a temporary ombudsman? And I have absolutely no problem at all with Rebecca Hilsenrath, who is the Chief Executive of the organisation. I'm sure she'll do a splendid job. But it is nonetheless, Madam Deputy Speaker, somewhat irregular after a recruitment process lasting several months, where proper procedures have been followed, that it would seem that number 10 are not prepared to recognise the recommended name from the recruitment panel. And I wonder, Madam Deputy Speaker, if my honourable friend could explain.
Nick Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the member for Hazel Grove for his introduction, and we look forward to more information coming forward. We support this motion to appoint an acting Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman. The post of the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman combines the 2 statutory roles of Parliamentary Commissioner for Administration and the Health Service Commissioner for England. As members of this House, we all know the important role of the Ombudsman plays in our system, providing an independent complaint handling service. The PHSO makes final decisions after complaints that government departments, a range of other public bodies in the UK, and the NHS in England have not acted properly or fairly, or have provided a poor service. The findings from the PHSO's casework are shared with Parliament to help with scrutiny of public service providers and more widely to help drive improvements in public services. I want to put on record my thanks to Philippa Helm, the recruitment lead and chair of the recruitment panel, and her panel for their work in identifying and interviewing candidates. The whole House will also want to wish the acting Ombudsman, Rebecca Hilsenrath, who is also the Chief Executive Officer of the PHSO, well, whilst the search for her new boss is finalised. I know too that members on all sides will want to send their thanks and best wishes to Rob Behrens, the outgoing Ombudsman, for his sterling work, leading the PHSO since 2017. I remember him when a student at Coventry Polytechnic back in the day. Rob has an outstanding record of public service, investigating suspected failures into our public services and helping people seek redress. You only have to read his recent interview with The Guardian to appreciate his dedication to the families and victims of public maladministration, particularly in the NHS. In it, he raised concerns about a cover-up culture in the NHS that leads to avoidable deaths and families being denied the truth about their loved ones, arguing that staff whistleblowers are being victimised and that ministers and NHS leaders are doing too little to change the organisation's culture. The Ombudsman has also been in the news this last week because he has published his final report into communication about changes in the state pension age for women born in the 1950s, which meant some women born in the 1950s had very little notice of an increase in their state pension age and therefore fewer years to prepare and to plan. This is a serious report that requires serious consideration. Now, the PHSO has rightly said it is for the government to respond, and we will continue to press them to do so. Madam Deputy Speaker, these recent news stories highlight the high-profile work of the Ombudsman, but we know that day in and day out, members refer cases to the service, trying to get redress for problems with our public services which have affected our constituents' lives. The Ombudsman is an important and vital tool for people across our country trying to get answers and recourse. I hope we'll soon debate a motion on the permanent replacement of Mr Behrens, and I look forward to the House panel completing their work. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Minister Alex Burghart.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. At the outset of my remarks, I'd like to pay tribute to the outgoing Ombudsman, Rob Behrens, CBE, who steps down at the end of this month after serving the statutory maximum term of 7 years. I'd like to thank him for the great work he's done to transform the PHSO. For example, he's improved complaint handling, established an independent expert advisory panel to inform decision-making, and set up Europe's first Ombudsman Academy to build capability. He has also introduced new ways of working, including mediation in casework. Madam Deputy Speaker, on behalf of this House, I'd like to praise Rob for his achievements and wish him all the very best for the future. The campaign to recruit a new Ombudsman commenced at the beginning of October 2023, and the House-appointed recruitment panel made a recommendation to the Prime Minister in January this year, as my honourable friend from Hazel Grove said a few moments ago. This is an important and high-profile role, so it's very important that the process takes as long as is necessary to appoint the right person. Until then, and to ensure continuity for the PHSO, it's necessary to appoint an acting commissioner, and the reason for that is that Mr Behrens had reached the end of his statutory maximum term of 7 years, so it's necessary for us to have an acting commissioner before a final appointment is made. The Government very much supports Rebecca Hilson-Rath's appointment to this role, as we believe she has the ability and experience to lead the PHSO until a new Ombudsman is appointed. She joined the PHSO as Director of External Affairs, Strategy and Communications in 2021 and was appointed its Chief Executive Officer in July 2023. She's also a Deputy, very happy to give way to my honourable friend.
The question, my honourable friend, is will the Prime Minister sign off on the name that was put to him by the recruitment panel in January?
Minister.
Well, that will be a matter for the Prime Minister, and as my honourable friend will have heard me say a few moments ago, it's very important that this process is followed thoroughly and diligently to make sure that the correct appointment is made. Therefore, Madam Deputy Speaker, happy to give way to the honourable lady.
I'm grateful to the Minister giving way, and I too want to put on record my thanks to Mr Rob Berens, not least the way he supported one of my constituents. However, my concern is that the Minister has had plenty of time, and the Prime Minister indeed, to review the appointment. And by putting an interim person in place means there will be a disruption when a new person comes in place. But not only that, does he not recognise that there is much work to be done in reducing the number of complaints and addressing the real needs of our constituents who need redress to the serious issues they're raising?
Well, she's absolutely right. This is an extremely important role, and that's why, in looking for a temporary head, we've chosen someone with an enormous amount of experience within the Ombudsman itself. There will be no disruption. There will be great continuity. She points to the amount of time it's taking for the sign-off in this role, and whilst I appreciate she'd like to have it now, looking back, the appointment of Mr Berens itself 7 years ago took almost a year, so it's not unusual for appointments to take more than a couple of months. With that said, Madam Deputy Speaker, in accordance with Section 3A of the Parliamentary Commissioner Act 1967 and Paragraph 2 of Schedule 1 to the Health Service Commissioners Act 1993, I commend Rebecca Hilson-Rath to the House for the role of Acting Commissioner.
The question is as on the order papers. Is that opinion say aye? Aye. On the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.